Cinderella. Once upon a time, a rich man's wife died. So he decided to marry again, so that his lonely daughter would have a mother to care for her. But the woman he chose to marry was a proud and selfish woman with 2 daughters just like herself. She did not show her true character until after the wedding. She ordered her daughter to work in the kitchen while she and her daughters enjoyed themselves. When the child had done her work, she used to sit in the chimney corner among the cinders or the ash. So everyone called her Cinderella. Her clothes was dirty and torn, yet she was far prettier than her sisters. One day the king invited them for a party. The sisters were very happy. They kept on talking what they would wear and ordered beautiful gowns. Cinderella also wanted to go, but her sisters teased her and said, "Would you not like to dress up in fine clothes and ride in a carriage, dance with a rich young man, or maybe even with the prince himself?" It was known that the prince was in search of a wife, and Cinderella's stepmother had high hopes for her daughters. Soon the great day arrived. Cinderella was busy all day, dressing her sisters and combing their hair, and when the beautiful carriage arrived to take them to the ball, she arranged their dress so that they would not get shapeless on the way. When the sisters had left, Cinderella began to cry. Suddenly, her fairy grandmother appeared and said, "Why are you crying, my dear?" "I wish I could go to the party," cried Cinderella. Her fairy grandmother told her that she would go. She told Cinderella to get her a pumpkin. Cinderella was puzzled, but she quickly brought the largest pumpkin that she could find. Her fairy grandmother waved her magic wand and turned the pumpkin into a beautiful golden carriage. Cinderella was then sent to find 6 mice, a rat, and 6 lizards. The fairy grandmother turned the 6 mice into smart grey horses, the rat into a handsome coachman, and the 6 lizards into smart footmen. Then she waved her magic wand over Cinderella, and soon her dirty dress became the most beautiful dress ever seen. Cinderella also saw that her feet were a beautiful pair of golden slippers. The fairy grandmother now told Cinderella to go immediately and leave the palace before the clock struck 12, as the magic would end at midnight. When Cinderella appeared in the dance room, everyone became silent, and the music and dancing stopped. She was the most beautiful young woman in that room. The young prince took her hand and led her to the dance floor. He danced with no one else but her the whole evening. When they sat down for their dinner, the prince could hardly eat anything as he was so busy looking at her. The dance went on. Cinderella was very happy. She danced every dance and did not at all feel tired. Then she heard a clock striking the hour. She thought it must be midnight. She became afraid and ran away from the dance room. The prince tried to catch up with Cinderella. As she ran towards the golden carriage in her hurry, she lost one of her lovely golden slippers. As the prince bent down to pick up the golden slipper, the clock struck 12. When the prince stood up, he saw that his beautiful dance partner, her fine coach, and the horses were missing. Now the prince was in no mood to celebrate, and all the guests were told to leave. The prince took the golden slippers to the king and told him that he wanted to find the beautiful maiden whose foot the slipper fitted. When he found her, he will marry her. The prince now went to every house in the entire kingdom to look for Cinderella. Cinderella's stepmother grew very excited when the prince arrived at their house. She was shown the golden slipper. She told her daughters to try to put on the slipper. But they could not do so as they had big, clumsy feet, and the golden slipper was tiny and delicate. The prince asked her if there was any other young woman in that house. The stepmother replied that only Cinderella was there, and she worked in the kitchen and did not go to the party. The prince ordered the stepmother to bring Cinderella there. When Cinderella put on the slipper, it fit her pretty foot. The prince had now found the girl he wanted to marry. He took Cinderella along with him to his palace and married her there. Thus they lived happily ever after.
Sleeping Beauty. A long time ago, there lived a king and a queen. They were very sad as they had no children of their own. One day, the queen was sitting near a pond in the castle garden. Suddenly, a frog hopped onto a lily flower in front of her and said, "Your wish will be granted. Before a year has passed, a daughter will be born to you. Croak, croak." Her wish was granted, just like the frog said. A little girl was born to the king and queen. They were so happy that they ordered a grand feast to be held to celebrate the event. All their friends, relatives, and the 12 fairies of the kingdom were invited. But there were in all 13 fairies in the kingdom. One fairy was not invited. Why? Because the king and queen considered number 13 to be an unlucky number. So the 13th fairy was not at all happy. She was very angry indeed. On the day of the celebration, all the guests had gathered in the king's palace with their gifts. The 12 fairies came with their special gifts for the baby girl. One fairy said, "I grant her good qualities." Another said, "I give her beauty." Another fairy gave her riches, another health, and so on. Now the little princess had all the gifts that every parent desires for his beloved child. Soon 11 fairies had given their gifts. As soon as the 12th fairy was going to give her gift, the hall door flew open, and the 13th fairy came in. She was angry at not being invited to the feast. She wanted to take her revenge. She said, "On her 15th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on a needle and die." Then, in a huff, she left the palace, leaving all present stunned. There was silence all around. Then the 12th fairy, who had not yet given her gift, said, "I cannot undo the 13th fairy's curse, but I can reduce it a little. The princess will not die, but sleep for 100 years." The king and queen ordered for the destruction of all the needles in the kingdom. As time went by, the princess grew to be a beautiful, wise, and friendly young lady. Everyone loved her. On the morning of her 15th birthday, the princess was alone in the castle. She wandered through the unending passages and rooms of the castle. She went upstairs and downstairs. At last, she came to an old tower. After climbing the narrow flight of stairs to reach it, she found its door locked by a rusty key. Turning the key, the princess opened the door. There, she saw an old woman with a spinning wheel. The princess wished her good morning and asked, "What are you doing?" The old woman replied, "I am spinning. Would you like to give it a try?" As soon as the princess took hold of the spindle, the needle pricked her finger, and she fell into a deep sleep. Almost immediately, everyone in the castle fell asleep, including the king and the queen. Even the courtiers, animals, and birds fell asleep. A fig hedge grew around the castle, and soon not even the flag on the highest tower could be seen. Throughout the land, the story soon spread of a beautiful princess who was asleep in a lost castle, where every living creature lay motionless in deep sleep. Many brave princes came and tried to break the spell, but could not succeed. A 100 years passed, and one day a young prince came to know about the story of the sleeping princess. He was very brave. When this young prince came near the hedge turned into fine flowers and made way for him to pass through. In the courtyard, he found horses and dogs lying fast asleep. He saw the king and queen asleep on their thrones. The prince searched the castle and at last he reached the old tower and opened the door of the little chamber. Where the princess was sleeping. She looked so beautiful that the prince could not stop himself. He kissed her. Lo and behold, as soon as it did so, the princess opened her eyes. At the same time, the king and the queen woke up. Soon all the living creatures in the castle woke up. There were sounds of happy voices all around. It was as if all was well the way it was 100 years ago. The prince and the princess fell in love and soon got married. They lived happily ever after.